Last night, the Detroit News obtained and then published details of a phone call that Donald Trump and Ronna McDaniel had with two of the then members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, trying to pressure them in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 election to not certify the results. And this might seem minor, but it's pretty significant because this is a big area. A lot of people's votes were on the line. Wayne County, notably, if you don't know, includes the city of Detroit. No idea why Trump would want to just nullify Detroit's votes or whatever, but it is a swing state that Trump lost to Joe Biden in 2020. About 18% of Michigan's entire population is in that county, so it matters if it's certified or not. And the phone call was on November 17th. And so you've got Donald Trump, you've got the Republican National Committee chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, and then you have two of these canvassers, Monica Palmer and William Hartman. And so the two canvassers initially had voted to block the certification of the county's election, so withholding the votes that would be needed to approve certification. But later in the meeting, they changed course and supported certifying the election based on the condition that an audit take place of some precincts within Wayne County. And so basically what they're doing there is they are not 100% sure that everything was legit, but they're willing to allow democracy to proceed as long as there's a few extra checks possibly. That is not good enough for Donald Trump or his campaign. So Trump apparently told them that they'd look terrible if they signed the documents after they first voted in opposition of it. We've got to fight for our country, he said. We can't let these people take our country away from us. This is November 17th. We're 2 weeks out from the election. I don't know how many court cases the Trump campaign had already lost at this point. Let's say 40. They have no evidence. They have no proof that there was illegal behavior in Michigan generally, let alone Detroit specifically. What they knew is that there's a lot of people there and it's likely to go for Biden. And so, just like with his calls to Brad Raffensperger, which we're gonna get into a little bit later on, this is a pressure campaign from not just Donald Trump, by the way, but also Ronna McDaniel, who I think has largely evaded being tied in with a lot of the big lie stuff, just going way beyond, I would say, what should be the line to try to get a result in an election that wasn't looking their way. And Ronna McDaniel was not just there, she was talking. She told them, by the way, if you can go home tonight, do not sign it, we will get you attorneys, to which Trump added, we'll take care of that. And they didn't in the end go back that night to sign the official statement. Now, eventually, there's some developments that we'll get into, but the pressure campaign was almost instantaneous. And I wanna give both of you a chance. I'm gonna start with you, Woz. Like I said, kind of seems a little bit like the Brad Raffensperger thing. Do you think this is gonna break through? Is it gonna change people's minds? I asked sarcastically, what do you make of this?
I don't know about changing anybody's minds. I think at this point, if you've been paying any attention and you're not part of the 30 or so % of Americans who would literally follow Donald Trump anywhere, it seems plausible that he would do this, that he would call up, that he would exert pressure so that he could keep power for himself. I don't think anybody sees this, reads this, hears this, and thinks to themselves, wow, that seems highly unlikely. So no, I don't think anybody's gonna be swayed by this, but this is pretty bad. This is pretty, bumbling idiot stuff, even for Donald Trump, that he would be on the phone doing something this blatantly illegal is kind of nuts.
Helen?
Who didn't he call? At this point, I just feel like he just went down like, did he have like an old school yellow pages and he just was like, who's next? What's the next state? All right, listen, here's the thing. Like at this point, I feel like he went down the line of every single state that he didn't blatantly win and just was calling everybody in that state and was like, listen, you're gonna look terrible. Like you do a better terrible impression than I do. But I feel like who didn't he call at this point? He's calling everybody after the election and he's like, just don't do it. I feel like he was just calling, don't do it, is my impression of just him being.
Yeah, I can see it bothering a lot of people. Like you said, he's calling literally everyone. I'm assuming like Donald Jr. and Eric are like, oh, so you can pick up a phone from time to time. I see how it is. But unfortunately, only for his own benefit. And look, I want to give you a little bit more of what happened. In the days after that call, Palmer and Hartman publicly attempted to rescind their votes. They said that there was intense bullying and coercion, plus bad legal advice that forced them to agree to certify the election after they had voted no, which I think is fairly hilarious and ironic. That like they had initially said no, but then they said yes, as long as we do due diligence and check to make sure that everything's okay. And then they receive bullying and coercion from the president, but then say the bullying and the coercion that happened before that and hasn't been specified is why they decided to certify it in the first place. So they were hiding the actual bullying and coercion there. In any event, what ended up happening was the Michigan Bureau of Elections later told county officials the vote that occurred and the signatures of the chair or vice chair of the 4-member canvassing board and the county clerk were the only things necessary to advance the certification to the state board of canvassers. So this could have gone in a very different direction. Not even necessarily that like, oh, we just never get the vote out of Wayne County, but they could just delay. In a lot of cases, that's what Trump was really looking for. He wanted to delay and delay and delay. I don't know, fingers crossed that maybe the Supreme Court decides to pull a Bush v. Gore and just decide that we're just not gonna count those, or we're gonna go with the states that are already decided, and oh, what do you know, that goes to Trump. It was a complex, long shot process. This, the Georgia stuff, Arizona, we're finding out more about that. Woz, as you were saying, very bumbling. But I have to imagine that now, 4 years later, they're gonna be better at this. They're gonna have people that are more willing to give them what they want and work with them in positions of power. So like we can sort of laugh about this now, Woz, but I'm a little bit worried that the next time isn't gonna be quite so funny.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that as you recounted what this guy was doing and what these county clerks and executives did after speaking to this guy. And it kind of I shuddered to think what this guy would be able to accomplish if our election system were more centralized, meaning there weren't 50 independent state bodies conducting 50 different, electoral experiments every single election night. Like he had to go out and find different people from different states and figure out what were the different rules in order to try to break them. Like if this thing was, centralized and this guy's, at the height of the helm of the federal government, who knows what type of power he could bring to bear to reverse, actual democracy, right? And so I think that's pretty scary. As far as, I think his biggest impediment, honestly, John, is that in these swing states, Republicans are going to win. And so the idea that these other Republicans are not getting cheated and they're getting, legitimate results and winning, and somehow it's just Donald Trump somehow is the only one that the voting is defective for. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I've always loved that. Like Georgia's the best example that even though they don't control the state, and Biden didn't control the White House, the Democrats had no control, they still were able to sway the results of the Georgia election. And then in this backroom smoke-filled sort of thing that they're doing, they're like, should we screw over Marjorie Greene as well? And George Soros turns to Biden and says, there are some lines even I won't cross. It doesn't make any sense. Your conspiracy theories are so stupid. Helen?
I did feel a cold wind as you were like, I was like, yeah, this is, who didn't he call it? And then you broke it down like that, like this is the dress rehearsal, and the next time they might be actually more organized. And I was like, oh God, like I felt a shudder because this was the dress rehearsal. Like nobody, this was the first time we're like, he's making calls and they're like, what do we, should we sign it? Should we not? He's on the phone. He's threatening, he's got lawyers. Like, maybe we shouldn't sign it and maybe we should sign it. But now the next election, they are gonna be a little bit more streamlined because they've done this before and they know a little bit more of like what should happen.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit scary. Thank you for adding to the nightmares that I'll be having.
Apologies for your lack of sleep tonight. Yeah, I'm worried about that too. I mean, look, there's a lot about what they tried in 2020 that didn't end up working. There's some of it that never could have worked. Like if Trump, if you're watching, Mike Pence cannot single-handedly reversed the election. That's not how it works. I know that you still think it, buddy, but that's not actually how it works. But that said, we also know that there were some Republicans, both like secretaries of state, county, board of supervisors, and in the Trump administration that would not go along with, they'd go along with a lot, let's be clear, but not to the extent that Trump wanted them to or needed them to overturn the results of the election. And the thing is, those people will not be in power the next time around. Trump already obviously prioritized loyalty a ton. Now, that is the only thing that they're gonna be bringing in people for. Like Mike Pence would not make it as his VP this time around. It's gonna be someone who is willing to promise to do whatever it takes. No one is gonna be put in charge of the Department of Defense. No one's gonna be put in charge of the DOJ that's gonna allow a single person who will abide by, you name it, the Constitution, the law, norms, whatever. It's not going to happen. And I want to remind everyone of one example of this sort of person. These new details that are coming out of Michigan about Donald Trump's call in 2020 reminds, I think, a lot of people of what happened with Brad Raffensperger in Georgia in the wake of the 2020 election. In case you've forgotten, here's a little bit of that.
The ballots are corrupt, and you're going to find that they are, and which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them, because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
You dumbass. He said the exact thing. He was clearly reading it and he had trouble reading the number. Sound it out, just sound it out. But like to say we need one more than the gap. And I love the naked attempt to bully Brad Raffensperger. He's like, honestly, it's more illegal for you. You're the criminal, buddy. You're probably going to jail unless you break the law for me. That was a little bit bumbling, but Brad Raffensperger did, in this particular case, the right thing. Not doing the right thing seems like it would have been very obvious and very difficult. So I'm not saying that he's like a moral Hercules or something, but he did not play ball with Donald Trump in his transparently corrupt attempt to overturn the results of the Georgia election. So Brad Raffensperger got attacked a bunch. Helen, his wife was receiving threats. I doubt Brad Raffensperger is gonna be in a position to save us in Georgia next time. I love the, it's gonna be more illegal for you than for them. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. Anyway, but I think you're right. It's like he seems like such a moral, like I did the right thing, but it was like by the skin of your teeth, really, because not doing the right thing in this case probably would have landed you in jail. But yeah, I think you're right. I think next time it's going to be a bunch of like we're turning into Kim Jong-un. You know what I mean? Like North Korea, like the goose stepping. Like if you're not a goose stepper, which is hilarious because Donald Trump can't goose step, clearly. He can barely step regularly, not even like a goose. But like if you're not lockstep in with him, you're out. 100%. You're out. So that's the thing that's a little bit scary. And especially in these, it's these tiny little local elections where these people get into power, right? And it's like 30 people come out to vote, and you know who the 30 people are. They're the freaking hardcore Trumpers. So that's the scary thing. Yeah, a lot of scares go around. Woz, what are you scared of?
I'd be scared of taking legal advice from Donald Trump, that's for sure. Cause he's no Johnny Cochran, I'll tell you that much. Just the way that this guy is describing what it's like to break the law. But again, these local yokels in state government, yes, they're definitely more easily corruptible. The corruption and the pettiness of the crimes that you see on the local level are often very laughable in how minute and tiny they end up being. But again, I think part of it too is that there will be more vigilance nationwide around this subject, but as it pertains to throwing the election or whatever the case may be, or Donald Trump trying to steal it in court or otherwise. So again, I don't think my blood pressure is all that high, because I don't know that he has the backing of the institutional Republican Party to just pull off a real coup like that. I don't think he has that support, because again, it's like, to what end? So that they can cut a couple more taxes? Like, what's the point? Like, is some Democrat in there ruining the lives of the powers that be in the Republican establishment? No, it's business as usual. So why go through these great lengths to aid and abet a bumbling idiot who you don't like anyway?
Yeah, I think trying to answer that question, like, maybe they think that Biden could actually pass a Green New Deal or something. I think they have a lot more faith in Joe Biden than I think most Joe Biden voters do.
Come on, John. I thought Helen was the comedian on set. Come on now. Come on now.
So yeah, I don't know if a lot of the establishment Republicans would be down for it. But the people they've been shoving through, and like the state secretaries of state, I think a lot of them are crazy. They're not Brett Raffensperger in this case. So I'm worried about that. I'm worried about who they've put in just like these individual county boards. Like, we know what they think was going on there with Rudy Giuliani's theories about Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss and everything. They think that it was like Democratic plants, when it was just volunteers who go and they're not even being paid, and they just do it every 4 years. But they're gonna fill it with crazy people who are gonna cause problems and to try to get votes disqualified. And then I also want everyone to bear in mind, this is for you, Helen, just in case you were gonna get any sleep. We also had all of those voter suppression bills passed in the wake of the 2020 election in places like Georgia and Texas and a number of other states. They've made it significantly harder to vote. So it isn't even necessarily that we will end up with a close election that they'll then pull shenanigans on. We might have an election that the Democrats narrowly lose, and we will never know what might have been if people had still had the same access to the ballot that they did 4 years ago. If they'd been able to, vote early or vote by mail, or if people had not been legally barred from helping people get to the polls, or if they hadn't shut down like the pulpit to the polls programs in Georgia or whatever, or try to lock people up for giving water to people waiting in line. Like, all these million little petty things that they've done to make voting harder, more inconvenient, more onerous, that could sway an election. And then they don't even need to make these bumbling phone calls. So that's what I'm worried about. I'll just quickly say, Stephen Chung, Trump spokesperson, says all of what you just heard on the tape is perfectly fine. It's in furtherance of his duty as a president or whatever. And Ronna McDaniel says, what I said publicly and repeatedly at the time, as referenced in my letter on November 21st, 2020, is that there was ample evidence that warranted an audit. So they're saying nothing in that call was bad. We just wanted an audit. I will remind you, they were angry at the women they were talking to because they had signed on to the vote certification, assuming there was an audit. So they're saying, we just want an audit. No, you had an audit already at that point. That's what made you so mad, was you had a certification with additional auditing, and that wasn't good enough for you. But I'm gonna close with this. I want each of your opinions. Like, the call in Michigan, no Trumper cares about. What you heard with Raffensperger, none of them care about. Let me ask you one of the most pointless questions that I ask on a weekly basis since 2020. What if Joe Biden had done this? What if Joe Biden had called into like Texas and been like, hey, Jack, all I need is 1,343 votes, or what? Like, they would lose it.
Fox News would just be like, all of their graphics would just be like, fire, fire, fire. Oh my God. Like, just people, everyone on Fox News would be just scream. You would just see like correspondents screaming with their hair on fire, and then, oh my God, democracy is dead. We're in a freaking, this is like, what are we, North Korea? Like, just screaming. I'm sorry to be shrieking at you in this way, but that's exactly what would be happening at Fox News and everybody else on the right. Like, there would zero chill would be happening if it was Biden, if the roles were reversed and Biden was caught on a phone call like that. Absolutely zero chill.
100%. Was, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we know. We know what Fox News and the like would be like. It would be as if the world had ended for sure. But I wonder if people are so checked out that people who are who lean blue would care either. I don't know that. I don't think that Democrats would be like, oh no, I hate Joe Biden now, and I want to jump into the warm embrace of the MAGA Republicans. I have a hard time believing the opposite would happen too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it's important to recognize that no side is free of self-interest or whatever. I think there is less like transparent desire for a leader that will break all of the rules because you're convinced that he will uphold like the racial hierarchy that you prefer or something. Like I think there's less of that on our side. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we'll never find out because we don't put forward candidates that try to do coups and stuff. But
come on, John. You know I'm voting Democrat to subjugate the whites so the black man can rise again in America and be on his rightful place. That's the reason you vote Democrat. Everybody knows that.
I do know that that's why you're voting, and
that's why I vote Democrat.
And we want to put our foots on the neck of the white man here on the Democrat Party.
It's just like Tucker Carlson has been warning. Anyway.
That's on my bumper sticker. Vote blue, death to whites. That's literally on my bumper sticker right now.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.